Hello, and welcome to the Arethusa Class introduction. So, I hope you're going to enjoy this as much as I do. When working out what I was going to do for a class introduction to this, because they are such an interesting class, A, I decided I'm going to do little profiles of the ships, and B, I decided I wasn't going to put them all out before the actual video because the live would be kind of spoilt if I did that. But I am going to put out the others at some point this week. Probably they'll go out tomorrow, whilst I hope to be wandering around the Fleet Air Arm Museum in Yeovilton. Government not changing its mind about when they're bringing in the new lockdown rules. So, without much further ado, the Arafusa class, a destroyer personality in a cruiser wrapping. Now, I had a lot of fun looking at this class because they're rather cool little ships, but they're not only the cool ones. The whole Arafusa name is quite a cool story. And so I decided for each of these ships to start off by not talking about them, but talk about their predecessors. Although in the case of the Arethusa class, there have been more since. There's been another Leander class frigate, which was an Arethusa, which is HMS Arethusa. So there has been actually more than are listed here, but these are their predecessors. Their successors are a completely different matter. So, pictured is HMS Arafusa 1913, pictured in 1914. But they start off as a 32-gun fifth-rate ship captured from the French Navy in 1759, and that one has a very famous action, which is quite a cool one, and I have it listed. Let me just track it down. Anyway, on the 17th of June, 1788, also known as the Fight of the Belle Poule and the Arethusa, a minor naval action took place between British and French frigates. It's pretty much the first between the two naval forces during the American Revolutionary War, and it takes place before there's even a formal declaration of war. So, it's fun. But anyway. It leads to the creation of a sea shanty, anyway. So, the Saucy Arethusa. Come all ye jolly sailors bold, whose hearts are cast in honour's mould, while English glory I unfold. Hurrah for the Arethusa! And it carries on like that. I'm not getting into this too far. But, have a look up the saucy Arethusa. You'll enjoy it. And this is where this name comes from, and one of the reasons I like these ships. 1781 was another 38-gun fifth rate. You notice the guns are going slightly up, but they're still a fifth rate. 1817 was a 46-gun fifth rate. Renamed HMS Bacchus in 1844 upon her conversion into a hulk. So named for the Roman god of wine and other things. In 1849 was a 50-gun fourth rate. In 1882 was a Leander class protected cruiser, scrapped into 1905 under the Lord Fisher's reforms. 1913 was an Arethusa class light cruiser, of course, of World War I, as pictured above, and in 1934 will be one of the class which we're going to be talking about. She is a frigate tight and brave, as ever stemmed the dashing wave. Her men are staunch to their favourite launch, and when the foe shall meet our fire, sooner than strike we'll all expire, on board the Arafusa. There is another verse, and it might get added in. So, what did HMS Arafusa of 1934 do in her career? Well, the easier question would be to ask, what didn't she do? She's commissioned on the 21st of May 1935 by the then Captain Philip Vian to serve as flagship for Rear Admiral Lionel Wells, Commander 3rd Cruiser Squadron in the Mediterranean. During his time aboard, Vian writes, Sadly, joining the Royal Navy College of Greenwich for a war course, I was unexpectedly received an invitation from Rear Admiral Lionel Wells to serve as his flag captain in Arafusa, the flagship of the 3rd Cruiser Squadron in the Mediterranean, to which command he had been appointed. I went and shall ever be grateful to him, not only for the chance he took in having so inexperienced a captain, but for what I learnt from him on the bridge in those 2 years. For him the boldest course was ever the best. Brevity was the soul of wit, and devil take the hindmost. Noel Coward was a friend of the Admiral's, and was to become one of mine. He came to stay with us for cruises among the Greek islands, where he proved an entertaining and engaging companion, and, when needed, a very kind one. The Commander-in-Chief, Mediterranean at this time, was Admiral Sir Dudley Pound, later famous as First Sea Lord during World War II. Where Sir Roger Keyes had turned to polo to tune up officers for war, Sir Dudley had a leaning towards dangerous manoeuvres. On one occasion, having the King of Greece as his guest on board Warspite, he chose Arethusa to accompany him on the Greek holiday. Stationing the cruiser 5 miles ahead of his flagship, he ordered her to proceed at full speed on an opposite course, passing as close as possible to Warspite without touching. I thought this a horrible manoeuvre, but at least we passed close enough to swamp Warspite's deck, with the water suddenly compressed between the ships. On other occasions, he ordered our cruiser squadron to pass between 2 battleships steaming in line ahead. This could only be done by placing the cruisers on a line of bearing, and steering a course which had to be accurate to within a few degrees. There was never time to work this out. Whilst in Arafusa, my claim to fame, if any, was the abolition of sweaty jerseys. It had been obligatory, however, the summer heat in the Mediterranean, for everyone to wear jerseys for physical drills and regatta practices. There were no drying rooms, so hundreds of sweat-redolent jerseys littered the mess decks for months. After the sternest of struggles with the captain of the fleet, away went the jerseys, and henceforth we stripped to the waist. White and prickly heated torsos vanished, and the fleet soon became golden brown. My time with the 3rd Cruiser Squadron was, of course, during a most disturbed period in the Mediterranean, when we seldom set our eyes on our families or our polo ponies. Most of the commission was spent in Spanish or Egyptian waters. In August 1939, I was relieved, being appointed to a shore command at Shortley in Suffolk, the boys' training establishment. Captain Philip Vian. So she has an very active beginning thing in her career. Then she takes part in the Norway campaign in 1940, almost getting lots of various duties, including potentially some Altmark incidents and some Narvik incidents, but doesn't get her chance, those. Was a key part of Force H from its inception. Took part in Operation Hurry, where they used some skewers and hurricanes to reinforce Malta. Took part in the hunt for the Bismarck. She was stationed off Iceland at one point and also took part in other things. Supported the Lofoten raid in December 1941. Was damaged whilst part of 15th, by a torpedo, whilst part of 15th Cruiser Squadron during Operation Stone Age in November 1942. Repaired first in Alexandria and then Charleston Navy Yard, then back in service in November 1943. Took part in Force D off Sword Beach during Operation Overlord. Served out the rest of the war in the 15th Cruiser Squadron in the Mediterranean Fleet and broken up in 1950. She has a very interesting career. If you think she serves roughly 15 years and she does all that. Not bad. During D-Day, this is quite traditional, the King, His Majesty the King, is put aboard Arethusa Class. Of course, when he visits Malta, he's taken on an Arethusa Class and escorted by destroyers. Very fast, big ones, whose job is to do whatever's necessary to make sure that cruiser gets to safety. And again, in 16th June 1944, when visiting in Normandy to go and see what's going on. HMS Arafusa is the ship chosen. Why? Because the Arethusa class are very, very well designed, and even by the end of World War II, this is being more appreciated than even at the beginning. Yes, they do lose members of their class in combat, but they are very strong, and they are very compact, sharing some design features with destroyers due to their size. They have the toughness of a destroyer design packed into the toughness of a cruiser design, and their compartmentalization is possibly some of the best designed into cruisers at that period, relatively. So this makes them very survivable, and combine that with their small size, which makes them less likely to be picked as a target, it's felt, by enemy aircraft, they are very good for taking VIPs. They're also very good for fighting in confined waters, which is possibly why they also spend quite a lot of time with some very aggressive destroyers. On this occasion, it's 10th Flotilla escorting them. In the Mediterranean, it was similar vessels. And, well, I'll finish up with the last part of the shanty. 'Twas with the spring fleet she went out, the English channel to cruise about, when 4 French sail in showed so stout, bore down on the Arafusa. And I should just point out, in the duel with the Belle Poule, well, there was a furious fight, and basically, whilst both ships were severely damaged, the Belle Poule lost more crew, but the Arafusa was crippled by a loss of mast and had to withdraw. Basically, the Arafusa didn't manage to get the weather gauge. It's terrible. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Take care and see you for live. Let's see, what else do we do have some more slides so quickly to go through. What else do we have coming up in November? We have Thursday the 5th, ships that Fisher scrapped, as suggested by Jeff Granard. Brew ships 25, some more naval aviation. Tuesday 10th, Toronto, a string bag from the dark. I'm just doing a live for that. There won't be any introduction videos because Bilge Pumps are doing a whole sort of videos together, so they're going to be the introduction. Research Week, 11th to 18th begins, so there'll be some very interesting long patrols coming out during that period. There'll be the Suez Crisis long patrol, the Norway 1940 long patrol, the Amphion class long patrol, and possibly an Arethusa class long patrol if there's enough people asking for it after I've done the live today. And that ends on the 18th of November with a History from Home lecture. Norway 1940. So the reason there hasn't been a Norway 1940 live is because that's going to be part of that lecture series on History from Home, which is quite a prominent lecture series, and you can sign up, and it's all online. It's at 7:30 on a Wednesday, so it's slightly later start time than my normal start time, and it's on a Wednesday. And then Thursday the 19th, Patron 10. If the Trent affair had gone hot, how badly would it have gone for the US Navy? Courtesy of the CIA. There's even more after that. And even including getting down to the Thursday night of December, there's RN paper cruisers, the what might have beens. 3 patrons this month, 11 and 12. Which means patron 13 is going to be Tuesday, 7th of December. And I'm going to be starting the patron vote very shortly. So, thank you everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing, for pressing the little bell down there. Thank you to everyone who's on the Discord server. And thank you to everyone who is a patron. You're all very, very, very kind and very helpful. Hope you enjoyed this little introduction, and take care.